What's going on, Reckless? Welcome back to another week. Man, we missed you guys last week. For all of our virtual students, our virtual groups, we missed you guys. Hope you had a great Halloween. Hope you had a great weekend last weekend. But it is good to be back. Good to be back in our groups. Good to be back in person this week with everybody. And just excited that you're joining us. So again, if you're watching this live tonight, it is 7 o'clock on Sunday evening. Then right after this video, we'd love for you to jump into one of our virtual groups. We've got a guys group and a female group, and would love for you to jump in. So if you scroll down the page a little bit under the description of this video, you can see those links. And I'm sure our virtual leaders, Alan and Renee, would love to talk to you more and get you connected. So excited that you're jumping in. If you're jumping in during the week and you tuned into this video during the week, maybe because of the title, we're excited that you are with us and would love for you to join us either in person on Sunday nights here on the campus at Westridge Church, or we'd love for you to jump in next week into one of our virtual groups. And it not just be something that you are watching, but rather it be something that you're participating in and being a part of community that God has designed us for. So before we get into our talk this week and what we're going to be talking about in our topic, I do want to mention a couple things to you. Got some exciting things coming. It sounds like a long way off, but Christmas is right around the corner. How crazy is that? So we're now in November, and we're just about a month away from our event that we do, the biggest outreach event that we do for our community here in Northwest Atlanta, called Hope for Christmas. And so every year, this is a chance for us to love on families, kids, thousands of families in our community, and share the love of Jesus by providing a great Christmas experience, Christmas presents, and just blessing some of these families. And so this is always a great opportunity for our students to jump in. And so we never want to miss this opportunity to serve together and to give you an opportunity to be able to serve. And so we'd love for you to jump in and serve with us on December the 11th as part of Hope for Christmas. It's going to be an outdoor event this year again. It's going to be a drive-through experience, but there's a ton of opportunities for you to jump in and serve. So go to hopeforchristmas.com and click on serve at the top, and you can see all the different opportunities for you, and then jump in with us and help make that a great experience for people in our community. The other thing I want to mention to you, we've been talking about it for a month or more, is our Nicaragua trip. So today is the deadline to sign up and be a part of our Nicaragua trip over winter break. And so we showed this video a couple weeks ago, but we wanted to take one last opportunity to show this video and just the importance of this trip and the importance for you to jump in and to be a part of expanding God's kingdom and sharing God's love in Nicaragua. So check this out.
For over a decade, we've taken hundreds of high school students to serve in Nicaragua. Year after year, students have been willing to surrender their lives to share God's love with people that they didn't even know. They've seen poverty, starvation, spiritual darkness, and brokenness on a scale that has changed their perspective of the world and how God wants to use them to help change it. But many of you have never seen firsthand what this trip is like. You may be wondering if God could use you to make an impact, if surrender is worth it. Come and see.
Going to Nicaragua absolutely just changed my life and taught me that we need to live on mission. And even today, as God's called me to plant a church, that has played such a huge, significant part in my own walk with Christ, as I have just realized that we need to go as Jesus called us to.
Going to Nicaragua showed me how beautiful God's church is outside of America. It reminded me that I'm a part of something bigger than what's going on in Dallas or what's going on in America, that I'm a part of God's kingdom.
I honestly didn't think that I was spiritually mature enough to go on a mission trip in high school, but I'm so glad that I didn't let that fear hold me back. When I went to Nicaragua, I learned so much. It really instilled a need for me to have a personal relationship with God. It gave me a passion for serving others, and it just kind of shifted my priorities more to like a biblical viewpoint.
I had the honor of going to Nicaragua my senior year of high school. On this trip, we were able to not only share the gospel with them, but show them the gospel through food distribution, door-to-door evangelism, construction projects, and much more. That's what putting Jesus on display is all about.
Do you believe that God could use you in a place like Nicaragua? Could God stir something in you that would cause you to lay your whole life down for the good news of Jesus? What would it look like for you to be part of God's work? Come and see.
All right, well, we are continuing our series that we started a couple weeks ago as part of Reckless called Let's Talk About It. And this is a series about hot button topics or issues that are going on in our culture that a lot of times the church wants to shy away from, don't want to talk about. It's taboo, you can't talk about it, it's off limits, but we're going to talk about it, and we have been talking about it. So we've talked about politics. Last week in person for Halloween, we talked about hell. And those topics, those messages are on our podcast that you can get through wherever you get your podcast. I would encourage you to go check those out if you haven't. Next week, we're going to do a breakout session where we're going to have a lot of different topics we're going to be talking about. But this week's topic is the topic. It is the thing. Talk about hot button, talk about off limits, talk about, man, you better be real careful and tread carefully when you talk about this topic. To the point that it's like, man, if there's a topic to avoid, this is the one. Let's kind of shy away from this. Let's steer clear. Let's deal with other issues. But Reckless, I don't think we can. We have to talk about this. This is something that's such a big deal. I feel burdened to talk about this, maybe more than any of these other topics that we've talked about. This is a big deal. And the reason is because I think for far too long the church has been silent on this topic. And what has happened as a result is we've allowed the world to control the narrative and to communicate the right thing and to communicate what even the church believes about this. And I think it's time for the church to take this back. I think it's time for us to talk about the beauty and the incredible thing that this is as a gift that God has given us. And I think it's time for us to stop being fearful or afraid and just talk about this incredible gift. I think it's time for us to be able to say, hey, we don't have to shy away from it anymore, as if God's best is like secondary, or what the world has to offer is better than what God has for us. And that's not the truth. This is God's best. It is the best. And it is time, Reckless, for us to talk about this and the beautiful gift that God has given us in terms of sexuality. Now, to show you how much the world has controlled the narrative around this topic, I bet you've already immediately thought about what you believe, your beliefs or your ideals about sexuality. You may have already begun to thought like, hey, I want to hear him say some specific things about this, or there better be some things that he shouldn't say, or he better not say, or things that are going to offend me, right? And there's all those kind of things. And I think in part that's because this isn't just a topic. This matters. This is personal to us. This is a big deal. And so that's, first of all, why I think this is so sensitive, but also, too, because the world for so long has told us what to believe and what not to believe. But I think what we've got to start with is just being able to say what you and I believe about sexuality begins with what we believe about God. And so that's where we're going to start. What do we believe about God? And here's the first thing that I want to communicate to us in this topic. God created our sexuality as a gift. God created our sexuality as a gift. Now, does that sound like something you feel like you would hear at church? Probably not. It's probably not something that's been communicated all that much from the church. And yet sexuality is not something to be feared, to be rejected, to be avoided. Sexuality is a gift that God gave to us as part of his creation. In order to understand that, you go all the way back to the beginning of the story in Genesis 1:1, and it starts, the whole Bible starts with these 4 words: in the beginning, God. In the beginning, God. Now, these 4 words establish so much. Who's in charge? Who's to be looked to for guidance? Who is the one that created all things? It's God. Before there was anything created, God was. Before anything was, God was. And God is the ultimate authority because he's the one that has created everything. And then he gets to the pinnacle of his creation. Look at the end of Genesis chapter 1. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground." So we see here in Genesis 1 as God breathed life into all of creation. Let there be this, let there be that. And then at the end of chapter 1, it's the pinnacle of his creation. He makes man and woman, human beings, in his own image. You and I were created in the image of God. Only us, nothing else in creation was created that way, but you and I as human beings were. We were created to reflect the image of God himself. Man, that is purpose and value that you can't get anywhere else. That's the purpose and value that God created each of us with. And so God breathed life into us. And with that, he created gender, male and female. And as part of that, he created our sexuality to be primarily expressed within a covenantal relationship called marriage. For what purpose? To procreate, to be fruitful, to have sex and multiply. That's why God created it. Why? So that the earth is filled with more and more people who reflect the image of their Creator, who bring glory to God. And the more people there are on the planet, the more people there are to reflect the image that they were made into, of their Creator. And because God is a good God, he created sex to be incredible. He gave it as a gift to us. Our sexuality and the sex for us to be able to enjoy was given to us, and it was given to us as an awesome thing, as an incredible thing. Now, so God created you and me with a body and a soul, meant to walk closely with God in a relationship with him. That's purpose and value. That's why we were put on this planet. And one of your and my core values as a human being is our sexuality. That's one of the core traits of humanity, right? And it was given to us as a gift. It was meant to help describe us and be a part of who we are, to continue to communicate the love and the goodness of God. And our sexuality does that. That's why God gave it to us, to better reflect who God's called us to be. And that's how God's designed us. And so, even though our sexuality is important, this is a big deal. Even though our sexuality is important, it does not define us. It's not meant to give us identity. Right? We're not meant to find our identity in created things. We're meant to find our identity in the Creator. And so for us to try to find our identity in the created things rather than in the Creator, it's always going to leave us unsatisfied. And so sexuality is a created thing. It's not meant for us to put our identity in or find our value in. It's meant to be an aspect of who we are, an aspect of us as a human being. But our identity is meant to be found in Jesus, in our Creator. And that's a really big deal. That's a mistake that a lot of us make. And so if this is true, that you and I were created in the image of God with a sexuality that's meant to give honor and glory to our Creator, then what that means is that our bodies belong to God, not to us. God created our humanity with a body and a soul, and our sexuality is wrapped up in that. And what that means is that because God created it, God gave it to us not for us to own, but to be a steward of. And what it means is that God ultimately owns that. And our bodies are meant to be used in a way to bring glory and honor to our Creator. But that doesn't sit well with us. We want to have ownership of it, right? And even nowadays, we use my body, my choice and other things like that because we want ownership. We want to own our bodies. No one can dictate to us. And Adam and Eve felt the same way. They didn't like, having to give the reins of control over to God and that kind of thing. And so they felt like God was holding out on them. They felt like there was something that they could find significance and happiness and joy in by owning their bodies and doing what they wanted. And so they went against what God had said. And as a result of that, sin entered the picture. And sin fractured and it tainted every part of creation, including our sexuality. And even though God created our sexuality as a gift, sin entered the picture. And because of that, all of us now have a broken sexuality. You see, sin took what was a beautiful gift from God and it enslaved all of us. The key phrase there is all of us. All of us now have a broken sexuality. There may not be an aspect of humanity that experiences more pain and heartache and shame than our sexuality as a result of sin. And so what does that look like? Well, one way is lust. All right, now we'll just start with me, and I'll be honest with you. I don't know a lot of you guys who are watching this, but I'll just be real. Like lust, the brokenness of my sexuality for me looks like this. I want to have sex with every beautiful girl that I see in my flesh. That's what my flesh wants me to do. Now, attraction's not wrong, right? That's not sinful. That's an aspect of our sexuality that God gave to us as a gift, that attraction. But lust is. And lust is an intense desire for sexual gratification. An intense longing or desire for sexual gratification. And lust impacts a lot of us. It may be for the opposite sex. It may be for the same sex or both. And for me, that's how the brokenness of my sexuality involves lust, where I am tempted through the brokenness of my sexuality to want to have sex with beautiful women. But there's a lot of other ways that this can look for a lot of us. Not just lust for many of us, but it leads to pornography. And 84% of males, 57% of females aged 14 to 18 have been exposed to porn. If we talk about the destructive impact that pornography has had on our culture, I mean, I don't even think we can really get to the depths of it. It has destroyed our culture. And yet we kind of shrug our shoulders and go, well, it's just normal. Everybody else is doing it. But pornography is one of those things that has destroyed our culture because of broken sexuality. Another part, sexual abuse and rape. Do you know someone is sexually abused every 68 seconds? Sex is weaponized. And women use sexuality as power over men, right? Post sexually provocative pictures, dress a certain way in an effort to exhibit power over men, to get men to look at them and to lust after them. And it's a form of power. Sexuality has turned into a weapon that we use against the opposite sex. Men objectify women. That's using sex as a weapon. Sex is sold, right? Every show, every commercial, every ad uses sex to sell a product or an idea. That's the brokenness of our sexuality. There's issues like sex trafficking. Man, it's a $32 billion industry worldwide. And pornography is the leading contributor to why sex trafficking has become what it has become. There's things like hookups, right? You've got apps like Tinder that has 75 million monthly active users. And the primary use of that is just sexual hookups. You've got divorce and broken relationships. I mean, there's the pain that divorce causes when a marriage ends. And relationships have now become all about us and what we want. And we use relationships not to serve each other, but rather in a selfish way to get what we want out of them. There are now fewer people that are getting married because of all the broken relationships and divorce. Now there's things like cohabitation that is a replacement for marriage that we feel like is a better way to do things, and yet it's actually leading to less healthy relationships, not more. You've got marital affairs. And in 2018, there were 15% of married women and 25% of married men that have had affairs. And then you've got just this sexual license to do what I feel like I want to do with no one telling me otherwise. It's a result of our own sexual brokenness in our culture that we feel like we've got the license to do whatever we want. Now tell me you have not struggled or been personally impacted by one or more of those aspects. So that's why when I said all of us have a broken sexuality, we all do. And it looks drastically different depending on who we are, but it impacts all of us. Now there's one other aspect of this that is not on that list that I want to speak specifically into, and that's the issue of sexual or gender fluidity and then homosexuality. Now, I want to say specifically to any of you that are watching, if you are watching this and you struggle with same-sex attraction or your gender, we love you. We love you. We want to be the most loving, accepting place in our community for students who struggle with their sexuality or with their gender and with anything really, but especially with this area because I feel like the church for so long has gotten this wrong or missed the opportunity to create a safe, welcoming environment. And so if that's you, you're welcome here. You belong here. We want to create a place for you. We want to roll out the red carpet for you. We want to sit across the table from you and hear your story and hear what you're going through and to be able to empathize with you and to be able to meet you in that place and to be able to fight for you and with you. You were loved by God and you were loved by us. And I want to speak that as clearly and as honestly as I possibly can. But this is another aspect of the sexual brokenness that all of us experience. And I think the culture has made it harder, more difficult for your generation, not easier. It's created more confusion. It's created more issues. It's created more brokenness just by giving you a free pass to do whatever you want to do and saying it doesn't really matter. You just live your life and do what you want and what makes you happy and what feels good. And there won't be any consequences and it'll end up better for you. But the opposite is true. It has created more confusion and more brokenness for your generation. And we want to be part of the solution to help you, not to make you straight. All right, that's not the goal, but to help you experience the freedom from sexual brokenness that God has for you and wants for you. To help you understand that all of us experience sexual brokenness, but there is hope and freedom that all of us can find in one place. Healing for our broken sexuality comes from running to God, not away from Him. From running to God, not away from Him. Now, if something is broken, you got to go back to the person that made it in order to fix it. And if God created our sexuality to be good, then I think we've got to run to Him in order to experience the goodness that He has for us, the goodness that He made it to be. We don't run away from Him and run and continue to do the things that we want to do or to other things that we feel like are going to satisfy. We've got to go back to the Maker. We've got to go back to the one who created it so that we can experience what He designed it to be. And this is the message of the gospel. This is what Jesus came to do. See, the goodness and the hope is found in Jesus. Jesus came to offer us power over all the things that sin corrupted us, that corrupted in us, including our sexuality. So Jesus has come to offer freedom and hope and life and forgiveness, and to restore us back into who God originally desired for us to be, to reconnect us back to Him, and so that we can experience life and hope and purpose and significance in Him and through Him, and experience the best of what He's made for us. And if you and I hope to experience freedom from the brokenness of our sexuality, freedom from all of those things that we talked about that sin has corrupted and broken our sexuality in so many of those different aspects, we've got to go back to the designer and see what He designed it to be and what Jesus has made it possible through a relationship with Him to experience the healing and the hope and the freedom and forgiveness and the victory over the things that sin has destroyed. And how do we do that? We do that through surrender. See, our broken sexuality is not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be surrendered. See, surrendering our lives and following Jesus is where we experience the hope and the freedom. It's going back to placing Jesus and God as the authority over our lives and bringing our lives into alignment with who He designed us to be and who He's calling us to be. That really, that freedom and that victory comes in aligning ourselves with who God has made us to be and the purpose that He's given to us, and allowing Him to be the guiding force and allowing Him to be the authority in our lives, and surrendering ourselves to Him. And when we do that, we experience the freedom and the life and the victory that Jesus is offering us. Our sexuality is a gift from God, and He is the only one who can redeem its brokenness. So that's our hope for you. And this is, in so many ways, the beginning of the conversation, not the end. This is things we want to talk to you about. Maybe if there's a way that we can help you one-on-one. Maybe you're watching this and this is a struggle for you and you want to figure out, what does it look like to find hope in life that God is offering me? I'd love for you to reach out to us. And you can send us an email, students@westridge.com. And just send us an email. Let us know. You can leave us a comment on this video. You can reach out to us through WRC Students, on social media, through Instagram or Twitter. But reach out to us and allow us to come alongside and just to help express to you and communicate to you the joy and the hope that Jesus is offering you, and the freedom from the brokenness of your sexuality and my sexuality. Let me pray for us. God, thank you for who you are. God, I know in so many ways this is a topic we don't want to talk about. It's a thing that we want to shy away from. But God, hope and life is found in you, in every aspect of our humanity, including our sexuality, and where the world has twisted it or turned it or given us kind of a free pass to do whatever we want and telling us that's going to lead to freedom, and really it's just enslaved us even more. And so God, I pray that you would give us the wisdom to be able to come to you and surrender to who you are as the authority over our lives, to allow you to give us life and hope and to restore us and our sexuality into who you've originally designed it to be and designed us to be. God, may we experience that. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. So I'm going to turn you guys loose to your groups. For those of you who are virtual students, a reminder that next week we won't be doing a video again because we'll be doing our breakout sessions here. So we invite you to join us in person. You can check out the different, next week, the podcast, the different topics. But then we'll be back 2 weeks from tonight for our next video.